I don't think you have bad habits. I think you have supernatural skills that's leaking through the wrong channels. Energy never disappears, it only changes form. An example of this perspective is something that happens in the macro happens in the micro and vice versa. So I'm speaking. So right now, I'm speaking to the versions of you and the versions of me. To the regular version of me, who's not rich or not broke, who seeks validation, can't stop scrolling, doom scrolling, who hasn't learned systems or boundaries, or the young version of me who generates 100K a month, who can't sit still, who hasn't turned the ego into legacy, or the older, rich, wealthy version of me who hasn't transferred meaning or built an ecosystem where nothing leaks or money never leaves the ecosystem. I'm speaking to all these versions of me and you. But we're gonna go back to why energy never disappears. It only transforms. But in order to see it like this, you have to have a mindset shift. Like the old version of me used to see addiction as bad, or dopamine as a distraction, like energy sensitivity as a liability, and discipline as suppression. And now I could go over discipline as suppression, because you could set out to do something and then go to the gym and you're avoiding your thoughts and your emotions, and that's why you go to the gym. Or whatever happens in your reality, you call it discipline. You go out, set out to do something, but then I call it escapism. So don't frame discipline as you avoiding something. I believe that that's the wrong outlook. All you need is a mindset shift. But now, this version of me sees addiction as misdirected supernatural skill. Don't worry. I'ma unpack this in a way that you can relate. Addiction as misdirected supernatural skill, because we all have a supernatural skill. But things in the life might become obstacles, and I'm gonna show you that none of these are curses. They happen for you. not to you. So I see addiction as misdirected supernatural skill, right? Dopamine as fuel, energy sensitivity as a signal, and discipline as direction. It's just a mindset shift. Now, you might have, even if I'm mentioning this right now, you might have a supernatural skill. There's so many. I get deeper on this one, on my one-on-ones, but let me touch the surface. Let me go deeper. You might have a supernatural skill of energy sensitivity. What happens when you have energy sensitivity? See, I just want to say this too. This might go left a little bit, but spiritual community has, I'm just saying spiritual people. And if you're spiritual, you can understand this. You could be, they call it being so aware. But when you become aware, you need to have a foundation. This is why esoteric intelligence is important, because these philosophies, if you want to call it, give you a broader understanding and gives you principles that you could apply. So, energy sensitivity, what would happen when you're sensitive to energy? You feel more. And when you feel more, it might be so overstimulating that you might seek a quick regulation. Return back to baseline. You might use drugs. I'm not speaking from theory. I'm talking to the version of myself, and I'm talking to you. Some people, I ask them, like, I used to smoke a lot of bud. So I'm like, yo, why you smoke? Oh, just to be numb to this shit. So that's a form of escapism. This is what I'm talking about. So you might use substances, not just drugs or, mind altering, but this could be candy. You might feel so much that this is how you make yourself feel good after avoiding a certain thought or an emotion. So it might be nicotine. I'm going to tell you my personal struggles. So you know that this is not theory. But how could you apply this on a macro scale? How could you use this? Because I could tell you what, these addictions or these things that you're doing or that is coming into your life is hijacking. This is the inner demons hijacking your superpowers, your gift. So, how would you apply this in a way that you can, instead of you not mastering, because if you don't master what's the anti-version of you, then that thing monetizes you. You don't monetize it if you don't master it. So these are secrets. I didn't even think I was going to talk about these things because people see it as fluff. But you know what? Man, serving in a whole different dynamic is my thing. So, how could you apply this in a way that benefits you? Hey, look, you could walk in a room by being sensitive to energy. You could walk in a room and gather information because you're sensitive. Look, you could set trends, or you could identify trends before they come because you're receptive to that. And you could come up with systems for markets before data even exists. So, this is how you could transmute these addictions. Are what would you call the anti-version of you that's hijacking you of your supernatural skills. It's just misdirected and not using it at a higher, like thinking higher with it. But first, you have to get through it. And I'm gonna tell you a way that you can get through these things holding you back from your supernatural skills and use it, because these are assignments. You have an assignment. So for you to escape the resistance in doing this and doing that, you have a specific assignment, and it's up to you to monetize it. I'm not saying that you have to become a pioneer. You could be innovative. You could use something that's already here and innovate that, or you could jump in that market. It's up to you. But there's things that are holding you back from identifying your assignment. Then you have to fully deploy yourself in that assignment. But these are the things that's, contrary to what you're set out to do. So another skill that I used that transformed almost everything was naming my addiction, or naming what's happening. It's like this. You can start a business and you name your business, right? You name your child. You name everything. And when you name it, it plays a role. And you know that role. Name your business, you know what you do, right? Start to name your philosophy, your perspective. Give it your own name. Because when this happens, it's when the learning begins. And when you name it, guess what happens? The shame of your addiction dissolves, because now the learning begins. You're looking at it through a different lens now. Now you're beginning to understand it, and that's your endeavor. So what happens after that happens is a direction now becomes possible. Now it has a direction. Now it's not just chaos, just running around. Get it? So I'll give you something that's happening within my own life. or happened. So you have the corn industry, right? I guess that's what everybody's saying. So I'm gonna use that. That used to be my thing. I always used to watch it, man. I know a lot of people know that I used to watch it because I used to be open about it with everybody, even my wife. And the corn industry. I want you to know something. This is a perspective and a mindset shift. So the corn industry, right? This is, you could call it an a demon hijacking you, right? You can see it like that. Or you can see it as a supernatural skill. But just wait. Of why it's hijacking your supernatural skill. So, the corn industry. Let's take the first 3 letters of the real word without saying corn. The real word, right? The first 3 letters and then the end, just move it to the side. Now, I want you to pronounce what you separated. First pronounce the 3 letters together, then pronounce the letter that's left by itself. And I want you to ask yourself, if you do suffer from this addiction, because it can become something that you do frequently with no direction, I want you to ask yourself, what am I allowing to pour in? Aha. I don't even know why I'm sharing this secret, because this is what is going on. So, what am I allowing to pour in without my consent? So this is what happens. This is, you're seeking stimulation, dopamine, right? I'm gonna go on another direction to this, but we still talking about this. What am I allowing to pour in? Now, some people get the misconception about lust, because lust, you can lust over a car, you can lust over buying a new house, you can lust over money. Lust doesn't just have to do with that sexual thing. It could be anything. It's just lust. It's the meaning of lust. If you go deeper, it means to not do the work of getting what you want, but just seeking a stimuli from it. So you don't set out to really do it. You just watch it, overstimulate yourself with it, and never have the discipline to really go out and get it. Lusting over money, over a house, over a car. You want a car? Go out and do the things and perform the behaviors that will allow you to be in possession of that car. So, back to the topic. You have, what are you allowing to pour in when you watch corn? I want you to sit with yourself and, watch it. Because people talk about dopamine. Now, you got to learn to identify these things and not leave it so vague. This is why principles are important. So now you get to observe what happens to you. Now, there's an energy that happens within you when you watch these things, but you gotta be sensitive. This is a skill enough to learn to identify where it lands within your body. Thoughts, then you feel it hit your lower, but you gotta actually feel it. This is what dopamine is. This is just like validation, or just like somebody just going on their phone, on their social media, just to see the likes. There's a feeling that happens quickly, in and out. And you're supposed to identify. Now, you're supposed to identify these feelings. Because it's either you could contain it or it leaks. And it doesn't, like I said in the beginning, energy never disappears. It only changes form. So if this like energy of watching corn, you can ask, or you could be around somebody and just observe their reality. It's distorted. It's kind of like a little chaotic, because just watching this creates, you're only watching friction happening. Not only that, there's this energy that I'm talking about, which I get deeper on one-on-ones. You're supposed to identify this, and then you wonder why your life, you can't advance. Even if, like, let's say you receive something, it tends to disappear because, oh, you get money for this, but you got to do that. Containment. Because something, you're allowing for something to pour in without your consent that you don't know nothing about. So if you're not using this as, even if you use it as fuel, there's something happening within. Something that I won't share within this video. But see how you watching corn can, if you start to understand it and start to learn what's happening within you, it becomes a skill. Then you got to name it, so you could really start learning it and experiment with these chemicals that's happening within your nervous system. Something happens to your heart, something happens to your thoughts, and then you could try to, manifest something, and the same corn thoughts will pop up. Boom. That's something that we got to talk about later, or not even in this video. But you see, you're allowing something to pour in. Have boundaries. Know your gifts, your supernatural skills, and protect yourself. I'm not here to say it's good or bad for you, but I just gave you some perspective to identify what's really going on. Now, I'm going to give you another one of how these inner demons could hijack your gift. Because if you don't master these, they will monetize you. This is the same thing as, and I'm going to just say this in the middle before I say what I want to say. The other thing that I struggle with, and I had to learn how to identify what was going on so I could identify my assignment and why was I dealing with these things. Now, like they say, don't worship idols, right? I want you to just know this. Just you don't become idle, because it's a macro to micro. It's a principle. Now, if you become idol, if you become a statue, something could worship you and tell you what to do and how to move. Learn these principles and you will identify you and identify your assignment. First, you gotta know these patterns. So the next thing I want to tell you about is the smoking habit that I have. I think you guys see me smoking Black and Milds, man, wood tips, right? So here's a way to look at it. Of course, if I do this, it could affect my health, right? But let's apply this to money. If you have a smoking addiction, just like nicotine, I said it earlier, right? You have a smoking addiction. But by what the collective conscious, right, knows is that what? You're 70% water, right? Let's just say whatever number. It's just an example. You're 70% water. What happens? Oh, and money, right? It's currency. It's liquid. There's a bank. So associates with water, right? Prosper because of money, which is flow. Like a flowing river. You know, bank, currency, liquid. You are money, right? It's within first. So, what happens when you add fire to water? It heats up, right? It's how you transmute things. See how energy never, I'm gonna show you how energy never disappears. It just changes forms, right? Now, you smoke. You adding fire to water. What happens when you add fire to water? It heats up. And when it heats up, it boils, right? And when it boils, what happens? It steams up, right? Smoke. And when it steams up long enough, what happens to that water in your pot? You can heat water up in your pot, let it boil. Go back like 5 hours later and look at that pot that you filled up with water. It evaporates. Macro to micro. So, just smoking, you can let go or leak money. There's money leaks because you smoke. Get it? Smoky mirrors, smoky. It's not clear enough. You can't see what's behind the smoke. It's not clear. It's no clarity like water. It's supposed to be clear. Get it? So, this is how addictions can affect your supernatural skills. But you develop these supernatural skills by understanding your addictions and what you're after. So, you could, there is a solution to this. It's like, You can ask yourself, like, what overwhelms me? What overstimulates me? Those are things that you can ask yourself today. So, my thing is making sure that you identify your assignment. And then from that assignment, you create a wealth system where money or your peace never leaves the ecosystem. Then, eventually, you could transfer that generationally, because after a certain point, especially like my older self, you could lose meaning. You could have all the wealth, and after that, you could lose meaning. So you transfer that. You keep your meaning. And in that process, it's not getting lost. It's an evolution of meaning. It's whatever meaning to you, whatever it is. So, what I'm saying is, addiction is power. If you learn how to recognize it, addiction is power without a container. And you could go through all my videos. I do not remove power. I just help and guide you to guide yourself to hold it. And since it's a war out here, only your peace and knowing yourself to the fullest will be able to hold that and contain that. So you already know the slogan, man. Let's keep it infinite.